Finally. Welcome to another episode of Becoming a Techno Wizard. And today we are continuing, or really finishing, this long ass newsletter that I created about how to change the world for the better, a new story of humanity. Really a example, I don't know, a case study against hierarchy, how and why hierarchy is at the root of pretty much all of our problems, all of our major problems in society today. And today we're going to just recap it, right? Um, Probably go right into the sources and inspiration too. Yeah, might as well. It's a short section. So, without further ado, let's jump into this final episode of my story. All right, my newsletter about a new story of humanity. Recap. Everywhere we see hierarchy, we also see inequality. We see stolen or other lack of freedoms. The very existence of hierarchies in various institutions necessarily creates inequality and a limitation of freedom. Oh, excuse me. You cannot have freedom and equality so long as you have people incentivized to limit or otherwise take the freedoms and equality of others. This is the fundamental problem of our society and has been for thousands of years. But as I pointed out, I hope many times over, this is not inevitable, nor is it irreconcilable. Irreconcilable, nor is it necessary for progress. I like to end with a riff on the following quote. They say, if you want to understand any problem in America, you need to look at who profits from that problem, not at who suffers from that problem. Dr. Amos Wilson. Well, I like to go a step beyond that. I'd say if you want to know why there is such a desire for profit, look at the environmental conditions and incentives that reinforce that profit seeking behavior. Or to put it in another way, if you want to understand the motives for profit in the world, look at the environment that incentives that profit, not just the organizations profiting. Elijah Cloud. uh, but you get the point. So don't just follow the money. Survey the environment that makes that money matter in the first place. It's not just the people that's the source of the problem, it's the environment that strongly influences what people do, which people are able to gain power over others, and the systems these people build to reinforce that environment. In order to build a better world, we have to, number one, recognize the environment at play and how they create the current world we live in. Number two, adapt to or even change those environments to better favor good behavior. And number three, to maintain these environments by being by being more conscious about the changes or adaptations we think will move us forward. So be aware, adapt, and maintain a better environment to move us forward. Not all progress is good. Not all progress is good. We can have leaders without permanent hierarchies. You can have experts without authorities. And human nature is social first, all else second, right? Violent, greedy, so all that stuff is second. At not even second, it really is less than that, but all the other stuff they say is human nature comes after the fact that we are social, right? And how you react, how that social plays out, that's a different story. That depends on the environment. Don't be afraid to be revolutionary. We can, have, and must change drastically if we wish to survive and thrive for thousands or even millions of years to come. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. So it's a really, really short little recap here. And I hope these little sound bites help people to remember what I've gone through and what we talked about in the overall for this newsletter. Um, I really want to point out before I get to my sources and inspiration, this a video that I found that I wish I would have found before by Anwell. See if I can pull it up here. Yes. Oh, let me share my whole screen here. There we go. And well, hope that I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but this video right here, what even is anarchy? Really, really amazing, right? She got yes, this hierarchy Triforce changed my life. I wish I would have thought about this before. This hierarchy of thought, especially, goodness. Power is basically what I've been talking about, right? Most of this newsletter. But this hierarchy of thought, I'm so mad that I missed this, right? And it's a key component. I started making podcasts about that. Check out my today's audio journal for my thoughts on this, my initial thoughts. And then, oh, power and priority. I said relationship in my my podcast earlier. This is why I need to watch this. But yeah, power and priorities. I was kind of sort of talking about these items here, like what we usually talk. And I guess I was kind of sort of talking about thought, but nonetheless, the way that she put it, right, and this structure here is just amazing, really amazing. Go check that out. But anyways, let's get into these sources and inspiration. So here are many of the things that inspired this essay and article blog thing. It's not quite exhaustive as I couldn't easily save the podcast I listened to during the last few months, and I forgot to save other stuff. And I still haven't really bothered organizing my pocket list or Notions repository. Go check that out. I have a whole repository, but I hope it helps find more info on most everything I discussed here. So something I want to do with one of my friends, I've been putting together something called the Good Information Platform, in which I've been trying to save all the stuff I've been watching. And we want to basically just share all that and then put like little summaries and thoughts on the things that we're reading. Put that on a website for people to check out. But, anyways, there's more important archaeological discoveries in 2021. Oh, these are the most important archaeological discoveries. So yeah, this is a great link to find a bunch of archaeology stuff. Um, this is where I pulled a lot of my resources and knowledge from, or fact checked some of the stuff I was reading before. Oops, here we go. This video, Indigenous Republic in the Americas before Columbus, was really, really great. Um, uh, idea here that shows how democracy and republic and the idea of republics have changed and where we even got this idea from. It wasn't from the West, it was from these indigenous folks. Capitalism Stole Christmas, just great stuff about capitalism. And get another one, Capitalism Still in the Metaverse, showing you how, the stories of capitalism and things like that creates our current reality. Black Socialism America, they have a really great Twitter, and they were critiquing some different actionable solutions. They critique a lot of stuff and put a lot of great solutions and actionable solutions and information and stuff like that out there. So go check out their stuff there. The Dawn of Everything. I haven't read the book yet. I really want to, but I was able to get it. And so I've been watching these YouTube videos where he critiques the dawn of everything. And some people have, said this dude is a little bit too, salty or whatever. He phrases things different ways. But I found a lot of his stuff really great. And he has a lot of great sources that I was also able to backtrack and find a lot of more information on. So I don't know. I really like how he lays things out. Youth Liberation, really great, fantastic video. Go check out all these creators, um, Khadijah and Andrewism. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in terms of revolutionary society. I've been learning a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, how it wasn't hierarchical from before. I talked about that in past newsletters, but this video from Andrew, um, was really fantastic as well for fitting it in context of revolution. I had some different stuff here. This is just random stuff that I didn't really mention directly, but like played into how I was thinking about these things, right? So there's this really crazy study that they found showing that the very popular pain relief drugs induces risky behavior and even decreases, decision making ability, right? So like the popular one, like ibuprofen, like stuff that everybody uses, Tylenol, like stuff that everybody uses, increase it makes people riskier, like makes people do dumb mistakes more commonly. They were able to find like a really amazing study, and this is recent, right? And this just goes to show that a lot of our modern medicines, yes, there are some good things about it, but there are some really, really huge downsides that we're not really talking about, and we're not really discussing how it impacts our entire society, right? And that's really concerning. Chasing false beliefs via science is talking about how people can change, you know, their ideas, their belief systems, things like that. Psychologically healthy people, what being psychologically healthy actually looks like. Now, I made a statement, hot take, in my most recent uh, audio journal podcast that I released today, and I made the claim that most people today in modern society are not developed fully. Right, most of us humans are not fully developed humans. Right, most of us are not fully developed humans. That goes for myself. That probably goes for you. That probably goes for most people watching this. Most people out there, simply because, right, we do not live in a world where we are raised in a supportive environment anymore. Right, we no longer live in a world for the last 100 years or so, at least, in which most of us are raised are ra- most of us are not raised in an environment where you can trust everybody in your community, right? Where you can trust the elderly in your community to give you good information without also, trying to force you to do what they want you to do. Most of us don't live in an environment where we are free to go and wander, to go and being curious, to go and be creative, and all this other stuff that humans, for the bulk of, as we know so far, the bulk of human history, had to do in order to not just survive but thrive, in order for us to get to where we are today, right? Most of us today are not able to even do that. We're just kind of coasting on our ancestors, what our ancestors did and discovered, and we're dependent upon so many things in our society to think for us, to do things for us. And yes, that convenience is really nice, but as we all know, convenience is not necessarily, the same as, it's not necessarily good, right? For being healthy people. So, neurological differences not linked to behavior in men and women. This is a really great study showing that the so-called gender roles that are, the supposedly, inherent or internal, to different genders and stuff like that, is actually not founded in science. Right, when we look at people's brains, we don't see any proof that there is some sort of neurological difference between a brain that is for a person that's typically male, or a person that's typically female, right? We don't see that difference. So where do these gender roles come from? Shows you that a lot of that is constructive culturally, right? As we're growing up. There's overfishing. This is another great example of how capitalism destroys the environment. Was life better in ancient times? Now, this was actually a contra take. This person was saying that, oh, life was not better in ancient times, right? And I use some of this to show that even if you say that, even if go with the argument that life was not better before, like it wasn't like perfect before or anything like that, that they still had, and this person recognizes they still had advantages that we don't have today, right? Such as community, such as having an open environment, things like that, such as having the need to go and look for things, to go and discover, to go and explore, right? These things were missing today. Even if they lived a hard life trying to find food, many of us still live a hard life trying to find food. But now it's about affording the food or eating the healthy food, right? And yes, it may not be as bad as, scrounging up resources in the forest or whatever, but it's still not great. And we can still do better. We should do better. We shouldn't use this progress, right, as a excuse to sit on our laurels, to sit back and say, "Oh, you should be grateful for what you have today," right? No, like the whole point of each generation is say, "How can we do better? What can we do better?" Right? The whole idea of, "Oh, you should be grateful. Why are you complaining?" It's because we can do better. That's why. It doesn't matter how far we've gotten, we can still do better. Anyways, the Dawn of Everything review. Again, I didn't get to read the book, couldn't afford it at the time, but there was some really great reviews, very comprehensive reviews, and I've read all of those, many of those. Doing the work of activism, really great podcast as to how to actually do activism from an activist, from a person who has been out there, um, protesting, but not just protesting, but doing all the, all the real stuff to try and stop, pollution and all this crazy stuff that's going on in the world. Um, Greenwashing, another great example of why capitalism is not good. Like, even if you think you can have humanistic capitalism, right? You get things like this greenwashing where people are just, faking shit and just making stuff worse. U.S. imperialism caused by climate change. How it caused climate change. How the fact that many of these problems that we have today is a result of capitalism. Capitalizing on resources that they have no actual claim to, but they claim anyways because violence, because power, because imperialism. Egalitarian society, what that actually looks like, what that means. Really great. Once again, by the same channel, What is Politics? They're fantastic. Go check them out. Build friendships, not just communities. This is why I went into it with that idea that you know sometimes or very often when we say, "Oh, do it for the community," right? We're not thinking about this as a group of people, right? Who you have to care about and think about. We if you put the needs of the community, the nation, the state, whatever, above the individual, then you're not actually building a real community. And this one is that same thing, right? In order for you to build a community, it's about building friendships. It's about the fact that you actually care about each and every individual here for who they are, what they want to do, stuff like that. And you figure out how you can help them do be the best that they can. That's what a community is really just a group of friends, right? And again, we're missing that. Ending climate imperialism, once again, by the same Our Changing Climate channel. Check them out, really fantastic. Um, Climate debt is just go check it out. The Collective Mind. I have a lot of stuff, so I'm trying to cover everything. Collective Mind. Oh yeah, this shows why how collective intelligence is better than single genius level intelligence. How bias. I think I have another one probably later on of how bias can actually be a good thing if you use it as a form of collective intelligence, where you have this person is biased here, this person is biased here, then you come together to see where where you agree and disagree and why and things like that. Beyond greed and scarcity, going to how um oh yeah, how money or a monetary economic system can work that's not based on the inherent um assumption of scarcity, and therefore does not encourage greed like our current society does. Another Black socialist um, resource. They have a website where they list a whole bunch of amazing bunch of political terms that we use, and which creates an amazing kind of glossary for you to understand what people mean when they say different things. To just show a little example here. All right, we hear all these terms: neoliberalism, social democracy, blah 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 blah. Right, so they just list all these up and give links and resources and definitions. So it's a great way to get informed about what things mean. um YouTube propaganda, this was fantastic videos, again showing the problems of capitalism. Even people that's well intended, that really is just trying to educate, right, trying to be objective, can themselves be extremely biased and problematic. I really love this dude, Veritasium. Is one of my favorite YouTube channels, but he made a really incredibly biased techno optimist uh video about self-driving cars. And this dude Tom Nichols broke it down. He showed every case how he was being extremely biased, even though he claims that he was not being biased, right? And guess what? What was made it all the worse is that in the comments, this dude reacted. This dude came in the comments and said, "Oh, why you pointing out that I'm Bill Gates, sponsor, whatever." I don't know. He pointed out some very small part of the video that Tom Nichols only included at the very end or something like that, just to just a little throwaway point. And this is the only point that he's focused on. He didn't even talk about the entire. It's like a almost a 2 hour video, and he didn't even mention any of those very valid points. Right, just focus on his little throwaway point. Oh, I'm not funded by those people, I'm not whatever. I'm just like, you missed the whole point, and you missed the chance to actually show that you didn't mean to be biased. Now it shows that it feels like he meant to be biased. He just didn't want to get caught, right? It really felt like that. And all the comments were like, dude, if you really weren't trying to be biased or whatever, then why didn't you respond to these actual points? Like this is not a takedown video, right? He's not trying to incriminate you or anything. He's just showing you the value or the reality of bias and how these things can work into educational content and things like that. And it was just really enlightening. But yeah, materialism versus idealism, another great video by the same channel. What is politics? Materialism is sexism, really great video. I really just listed the entire playlist because all of that was extremely influential for this podcast, for this article, and it's why I even wrote this stuff in the first place. So go check all of it out. It's it's really fantastic. When communism works, all that stuff is beautiful. Beautiful. Inequality more tolerated with individuals than groups. Yeah, this shows how people kind of see, um, like when you look at inequality from an individualistic standpoint, people are like, "Oh yeah, it's okay because he's a billionaire. He's meant to be like that." But when you look at it as an entire group, right, you begin to see the problems of it. And today, many people treat inequality as an individualistic thing, as like, "Oh, that person is poor, that person's rich, they deserve it." But you're not looking at the fact that it's a social problem, right? It's the fact that these set of people are usually super rich and these set of people are usually super poor, and there's a systematic reason as to why. Um, but yeah, rising population density linked to lower fertility. Again, showing that this was as it says it here. New study helps explain why increasing population densities are linked to decreasing fertility rates. Great thing to look up. And this video, how tech companies manipulate media is kind of like a similar type of thing to here, but from a completely different perspective. They weren't even talking about it from where Tom was, but they covered a similar type of issue of how even if you are trying or supposedly going to be biased and or unbiased and objective or whatever, whenever any sort of money or branding or any of this sort of thing comes into the equation, it instantly, or at least it inevitably, right, biases things in the worst way, because it's not like, oh, I'm saying my bias. You're not. You're saying that you're objective, but you're actually being really biased, and that's really disingenuous. Japan's town with no waste shows you how things can be different, right? The fact that this is a small town, but it's still an example of how we can use um, different ideas to handle our pollution problems and different types of problems and things like that. Mystery of the disappearance of giant animals. Another really interesting case showing how humans have inadvertently been causing this sort of problem throughout history. And a lot of it is not because we are trying to be bad or anything like that. It's because people aren't being fully aware of the ramifications of certain decisions and certain impacts that we are doing to the environment. And if you're not aware of these things, we can look back 1,000 years from now, if we're still here, and be like, oh, where are all the animals or whatever, right? Like, we have to be more aware of our impact. The Suburban Wasteland, really fantastic video, both of these, part one and part two, about how suburbia was created in America and in many other places around the world, and how it really destroys not just our environment but ourselves, right? The fact that like the blight on our childhoods, the fact that it really destroys how people are raised and what they get to do, like the fact that the suburbia actually increased is a high part of what increased the whole danger of kids thing. Is not because people were getting kidnapped or whatever. It's because people were getting ran over by cars. So a lot of this is a design problem. It's not a factor of humans being bad or whatever stuff like that. It's these people in power that want to design the world how they see, and that design is destroying the environment and us. Can individuals fix climate change? No, you can't. And I I watched there was some really great Kurzgesagt response videos as a response to this one and some other ones that they made, showing how Again, Kurzgesagt themselves is another one that kind of becomes biased. But I didn't even see all that before this one. This one I just like because it shows you that it's not an individualistic problem, right? It doesn't matter how many straws you use or don't use in order to fix climate change. It's about the systematic issues involved. The fact that we have entire restaurants and company chains using plastic straws and the number of all these plastics and packaging and things like that, and then throwing it away and stuff like that. So putting the blame on consumers is completely shifting the responsibility and the accountability from these companies and these corporations and these governments that are enabling this sort of behavior and this sort of disaster. National liberation and anarchism, another great anarchism video. Just I have a lot of these from andrewism and stuff like that. Solar punk manifesto, great to learn about what solar punk is, what we're looking for, what it's for. Neoliberal anxiety, really fantastic video talking about how neoliberalism created a lot of this mental anguish that we see today with the high rates of suicide, depression, anxiety, and things like that. Another really great andrewism video about solar punk. Um, Another great solo punk video. It's just I love solo punk, right? It's super great. This one is where I learned about Malatesta and how cool he is. How even when he got shot, he was like, "Fuck the police." Types of narcissism. These were all these narcissism videos was really great to learn about how our society really caters to narcissism and what narcissism really is, and how um, bad of a problem it is. Highly sensitive people, how it's kind of the other side of that, not really of narcissism, but like different types of people. This is like myself. There's like people who can feel a certain level of things, of sensitivities and things like that, and how that's not a bad thing, right? Being the fact that we call being sensitive as a sort of um um what you call it, deconnotation as a bad thing is really destructive to not just people like me, highly sensitive people, but to sensitive being sensitive in general, being empathetic in general, and is very demoralizing. Demonopolizing the internet, how the internet today is very much monopolized. We need to do better, be more interoperable. A podcast about upgrade squatters shows again another example of how you can squat, do things that's illegal, but in the good way, in a way that not in a good way, but like shows you that just because something is illegal doesn't mean it's bad, right? These people were squatting, but they were squatting on a land that was not being used, and then they made that land better, and because of that, the entire community, uh, benefited from these people squatting there and planting things and growing it and growing it into a better environment. So that was great. Another, you know, piece to that upgrade squatting. The Catalan Integral Cooperative shows another, a real life example of like an anarchistic kind of group that's out there. Um, Graeber and Waingro and the Myth of the Stupid Savage. This was kind of like a prologue to their book that they ended up writing later. Same thing with the Wisdom of Kondiaronk, how the Native Americans, especially folks like Kondiaronk, came over to Europe and was critiquing their society and showing them how bad their society was, and that's what kicked off the Enlightenment. So we have people like Kondiaronk to thank for the Enlightenment, right? Because if it wasn't for them, then they would not have been questioning the European, aristocrats and things like that. Whew. SUV mania. Oh man, this is a great video. Similar to the suburban problem, but shows how advertising has both reflects and creates really destructive kind of ideas on how you know we've been doing things and what it means to be safe. Like people think SUVs are safe, but actually they're more dangerous. You get more accidents with an SUV and more fatal accidents with an SUV, both for people that's a victim of the accident and the people inside the car of the SUV. It's not safer. Um, Inequality is always dangerous. Another great video by him. Power-free future or poverty-free futures. How political definitions shape reality. Bo Burnham versus Jeff Bezos. So this is seems a little bit weird, but this Andrew, goodness, CJ the X has really fantastic videos. But this is a super long one talking about how these folks are like especially Jeff Bezos is like the poster boy of capitalism, but it's still so problematic. And Bo Burnham is like this kid trying to, you know, figure out his way in this capitalistic society, and is trying to have this moment where he's like, what do I do? And all that. It's just really great. You know, go check it out. Both the Bo Burnham special and this video with CJ the X. How much do I have left? Goodness, a lot of shit, a lot of shit. Yeah, so that's I ended there. You see all this stuff, right? Systems thinking. You know, I learned this from somebody, but you know, this video was a great, you know, further introduction into that. But yeah, really, really great stuff. As you see, I've been reading a lot of stuff, and again, this is only a piece of what I've been, you know, reading in order to create this article, in order to create this newsletter. I read a lot of shit, and I watch a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff that's why I always say most of the stuff I learned is not just me. It's all this it's people out there creating amazing stuff, doing amazing things to understand the world and figure out where we are. And I'm just doing my part in trying to bring that stuff together and trying to, you know, um, form my own ideas from that. And hopefully people can take minds, and this whole thing becomes a different part of their own, you know, a way of understanding the world. So hopefully, you know, we all can learn from this. But yeah, that's it. That's it out in there. I didn't mean this to go on for 30 minutes, but I forgot how long my sources or inspiration list is. Um, but yeah, as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you've learned from this entire series. Um, from here on, I'm working on another newsletter. Nothing like this, more of a recap on what I've been up to and the things that's been on my mind. If you want to hear more of what I've been thinking, though, check out my audio journal. I do update that more regularly, at least once a week, usually more. Um, so you can hear it's a more raw, you know, kind of example of what I've been thinking and learning and all this other stuff. So go check that out. McAfee, goodness, just popped up. But yeah, from here on out, I'm probably going to just be doing anarchy videos, reading that Peter Galloway. I need to get back to that, and philosophy videos with Dr. Sattler. I want to get a new mic, a new camera, and all the other stuff, and then make edited videos. Um, you know, real fancy little video essays like BreadTube folks be doing, and all the other stuff. Trying to get myself in there. So if you've been listening to all this rough stuff, very, very sorry, but I'm super thankful. I'm super thankful. If you want to help expedite this process, I've never been asking because I always feel so embarrassed, but go check out my Patreon. I do have a Patreon. It's there. I have one Patreon person on there. I've asked them if they want anything from me. They haven't really responded for anything. So uh, that's funny. But let me shout them out while I'm here. In my Patreon here, the relationship manager. Who is it? I want to shout you out, Lisa DeGardi. Thank you, thank you very much, Lisa. Don't know who it is. I've contacted them. I'm like, hey, what do you want? What would you like to do? But they're just there, so I don't know. Thank you, and if you want to support my Patreon and help this, you know, help me get better equipment so I could do better videos and this, that, and the other, feel free to hop on. And as the earliest ones, you can figure out, you know, what else we can do here, what these different tiers should be. Where do I even find this stuff? I'm not even on here. Um, there we go. So I used to like update stuff on here, but there was nobody here. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna not. I don't know where to find I don't know, whatever. But yeah, feel free to support the Patreon if you want. And the link is in the description. Go check out, you know, my journals, my audio journals, my newsletters, all the other stuff if you want. Whatever you want to do. Thanks as always. Let me shut up. Have a great day. See ya. Bye bye.